This tutorial is to help you understand Prime and the basic navigation of that app for using click tracks. So we're going to start off by opening Prime. You're going to be able to log in with your own email address or username that you've set up through the invitation email you received from Loop Community. Once you're logged in, you'll click on Set List. Any set list that you are playing on that week or singing on that week, you'll be able to have shared with you by your administrator. And so you'll go to Shared with Me, click on the set list that you're wanting to load. If it looks like the right set list, go ahead and click Load Set List. Now this is going to load with certain settings already preset, such as the key that I've set them at, the BPM, and the song transition type. Now song transition types that you have, if you click there, you can see you have crossfade, overlap, audio advance, advance, trigger, and stop. The only two we're really going to use is stop, which is going to just stop the track once it reaches the end, and crossfade, which is going to allow the next song click track to begin while the existing song, the current song, ends, making them flow much better together. So these are already set for you. Now, anytime you want to change key, you'll change that up here in the top. The BPM, you would change here at the top. Okay, now we can change the key and the BPM. But generally, you won't be changing those things. They'll already be set for you. Now, as you can see, once you click on a song, up here at the top, it shows you the song sequence, okay? Each of these is a song part. Even though some are different, they are still known as those song parts. And so the verbal cues that will come through on the cues track is going to match the song part. Now, each of these is a slider. You can click on these and drag them up and down to change the volume of each individual stem. You can mute them if you don't want that to come through your stem, or you can solo them if you'd like to hear what they sound like, sample them, in other words. Now, for use in our Sunday services, you'll find that I will already have these turned up and down according to what instruments we have on stage. So most weeks, we are not going to use anything but clicks and cues, and then maybe some of the sounds that we can't typically replicate on stage. Things such as the loop. Sometimes we may use vocal FX. Sometimes we may use percussion if we don't have someone on the hand drums. The FX for unique sounds that are created by different types of synthesizers or electronically. If we don't have a drummer one week, we may use the drum stem. Some other features you may see on the screen are down in the bottom right corner, a pads player. What this allows you to do is at any given time during your service, if you need to fill the sound, if you're wanting to underscore someone who is talking or praying before you go into a song, then the way you could use that is knowing that we're going into House of the Lord in F. We could click F to put the synth pad in F, and then just click the power button and it begins to play. And then as soon as you're done with it, you can turn it off. It also has its own volume setting so that you can change that as needed. If you were doing certain transitions that were not necessarily in the same key and you wanted to transition better, as you came to the end of this song, since it's cross-faded, you could go ahead and have you a B synth pad set up so that as you finish this song, you turn on the B pad and it starts to set you up for the next track. And then it fades out as soon as you turn it off and it starts the song. We'll look at some of those examples in just a moment. Now, across the top is your control dashboard. As we talked about, we've already looked at the BPM. These are the start and end and fade out points. Once again, these are items that you will not be changing on most weeks. Here are the controls you will use. Now, this is a master volume. We will plan to keep this at 100% all of the time. You've got a back or previous and a next button. a start, and a stop. And then you've got a repeat, which depending on how you have your settings, is going to repeat the section that you just played through. And then a fade out, which is going to fade out everything except for the click. If something has gone wrong in the house, you can fade out everything that's playing in the house, and then once it's faded out, stop the click track, and it just keeps it from sounding so abrupt. Now keep in mind that as I play this track, it is coming straight out of the iPad speakers. We will be hooked into the sound system to where all of the left channel will be the clicks and the cues, and will only be routed to the in-ear monitors on stage and the in-ear monitor body packs. All of the blue channels will be routed to the right, which will all be routed to the house and be controlled by the soundboard engineer. So let's take a listen to the first track.
Intro, 2, 3, 4. Intro, 2, 3, 4. Verse, 2, 3, 4.
So the clicks and cues, you won't want to adjust those volumes ever, because those are going to be controlled by the individual user of each in-ear monitor. So as you hear, we've got all the instruments going. When we get to this chorus and it grows dynamically,
Chorus,
you're going to
2,
hear everything
3,
coming through.
4.
All right, let's stop that. So let's say that we're working on a typical Sunday where every instrument is on stage. So we don't need drums. We don't need any electric guitars. Now, sometimes it's worth listening through these different electrics, because sometimes they do bring a sound that our lead guitarist or our electric rhythm player are not going to typically be doing. But we want to usually leave the FX. Let's get rid of the keys. Once again, they have 3 sets of keys, 4 sets of keys, because often these are sounds that we are not playing on stage from our typical piano or our typical synth. But here's a percussion that's going to be a lot of hand percussion instruments, a organ that our synth is often going to be bringing, and then this loop, the vocal effects. These are going to be sounds that we're not creating in the room with our own instruments. So let's take a listen to what we've got now.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
So we've got the hand clap coming from this loop, and we've got the
Intro,
vocal
2,
effects.
3,
This
4.
the choir sound. We've got this FX that's kind of the hi-hat
Verse,
sound.
2, 3, 4.
So we keep the clapping going with this loop track here, the loop stem. And remember, we've got all these instruments that are muted
Chorus,
in
2,
the house,
3,
so we don't need
4.
them. Now let's say it's a week that our drummer is out, okay? We wouldn't want to mute our drums, and so when we play this track, this is going to be the difference.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, here
Intro,
come the drums
2,
here.
3, 4. Verse, 2, 3, 4.
So that's how you're going to use each of these faders week to week. Now, you can plan on me having all these faders set before Sunday morning, to where you sit down at your instrument, and if you're the controller of the prime track player that week, you don't have to control any of these. In fact, there'll be no need to change any of them. Now, in your practice during the week, let's say you're a pianist and you're practicing during the week and you want to practice with these tracks so that you know what it's going to feel like. You would want to leave majority of these instruments on. except for the piano. So if you're sitting at your piano playing, let's see what some of these keys tracks are before we get started. So I'm going to skip ahead to maybe the chorus part of the song. All right, so there's nothing coming through keys 1. Okay, so this is definitely a sound that's not going to be generated by our synth player because this is not the style that we're going to be playing. So you'd want to leave that one on. So what I would suggest is any of these keys, any of the electrics, that we're leaving those turned on and just turning off the piano. If you're a pianist practicing along with this, this is what it would sound like.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so you're playing along, and so for you it sounds like
Intro 2,
but you
3,
are the pianist,
4.
so what you're hearing from the track is everything except for the piano.
Verse 2, 3, 4.
Now let's talk about these transitions and how they work. Now let's turn all the instruments on because we want it to sound like it's going to sound in the house, okay? So I'm going to skip ahead. We've got our second to last instrumental where we're singing, "We shout out your praise, oh, oh, oh." All right, so let's bring it in right there. And let's watch what it does as it crossfades to the next song.
Outro 2, 3, 4. End 2, 3, 4.
The click for the next song takes over.
Verse 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so that's how that crossfade is going to work. Now, when we get to the end of this song, it's just going to stop.
N 2, 3, 4.
Okay, now you'll notice that this song is 4 minutes long. However, I set the end time at 3:55 because as soon as the instruments end, I want it to stop. That way we're not having that indefinite click track going in our ears. Let's look at one more transition. Speak to the Mountains. We'll start at the tag here.
3, 4, 5, 6. And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You hear the next click track.
Intro
start.
2, 3, 4.
If I
Intro
were
2,
you,
3,
I would've
4.
given up on me by now. Now, granted, we won't be using this pad player much of the time, but let's look at what we could use it for. So we know we're going into the key of F out of Speak to the Mountains. We could go ahead and have this set at F. And as we finish this, just to make a nice smooth transition, as smooth as you can.
3, 4, 5, 6.
As soon as the sound starts to die out right about here, we can go ahead and turn it on.
And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Intro 2, 3, 4.
Go ahead and turn it off now.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
And so that's how that pad player can be used. Or maybe you wanted to leave it on because it's just too empty at the beginning of the song.
Verse 2, 3, 4.
Okay, or let's say we're at the beginning of the song service. Okay, and we know our first song is in B flat, and just before we start the service, I walk up and I say, hey, I'm going to talk a little bit before we start this song. Give me some pad before we start. What you can do is have the volume down here, turn it on, start to bring that pad in. Okay, that's just giving us some underlayment there. Josh was talking. And then we're ready to start.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Okay, and that's how that'll work out. One other thing that I want to show you, if you don't have the latest version, what you can do is click sync. If you want to see the changes that I've made, then you can pull the latest from the cloud, and then any changes that have been made will take effect on your screen. So we've got our iRig Blueboard. How do we get it paired up with our iPad and ready to use? So first thing you want to do is on the bottom side, there's an on-off switch. Go ahead and switch that to the on position. You'll notice that the blue light begins to flash, waiting to be paired. So you'll go to your Blueboard app, and you've got a button to prompt it to connect. It's named iRig Blueboard, so we just select that, and you'll notice the blue light stops flashing. It is now connected. Now you will no longer need to use this app. However, do note that in Menu and Settings, there is a setting that will always need to be set to Control Change in order for this to work. Now you can go out of that app into your Prime Player, and you're ready to go. Just like that. So let me show you how simple this is. You've got 4 buttons. They're programmable. The way I've got them programmed right now is the play button, the stop button, the next button, and the fade button. Now that's easy to remember because we've got the play button, the stop button, the next button, we skip a button, and we've got the fade button. So where you could reach up and touch play on the screen and touch stop on the screen, instead, we're going to be able to simply hit the play button. Now this board is designed to be used on the floor, and so you actually just push it with your foot, okay? If you should need to stop it for some reason, you stop it. If you start this track again and something is going wrong in the house, let's skip ahead to the chorus. Here we go, chorus.
Chorus 2, 3, 4.
If something is going wrong and you want to fade the track out, you click the fade button. And as you hear, it begins to fade everything that's going to the right track, all the house sounds.
3, 4.
And then you can just press the stop button once it's faded out to stop the click. And then the other use is the next button. So on your playlist here, if you wanted to skip a couple songs, you push that next button, okay? So it's going to skip ahead, and then you're ready. You can just go ahead and play the track. Now I want to show you, we can click in to skip to the end. All right, now we're transitioning songs automatically, and we didn't even have to press anything here. But once again, we've always got the stop button, the fade in case anything should happen, even the pause button in case we need to pause it, anything like that we may need to do. And that's the iRig Blueboard.